All right. I think it's Krishna. Krishna? Krishna. It's Krishna. Krishna. Krishna Hedge. Hello. Vancouver. Oh, nice. Very nice. Open opportunities, environment, and texture artists. So on your post, you'd said that you want to be a texture artist. So we're going to kind of look at your work for that. This is amazing, by the way. That's a great way to, I got to click this now. It's a great way to show some of that material fanciness. Look at that. Was that transmission going on? Just have a sound effect stream. But it's facing the wrong way. What do you mean? Oh, that's not facing the wrong way. You're wrong. This is correct. That's correct, man. Anyways, let's get into this, huh? So, wanting to be a texture artist, some of the older stuff here, this is about a year ago. I just want to do a quick click through these and just see if they've been modified in order. 10 months. What was that one? 8 months. 7 months. No, they're not really changed. That's cool. This is good. Yes. Okay. So you start with an environment here. Project 9 of my classmates and I worked on for the last 8 weeks. This was a year ago. I guess this was for a class. No, you're wrong. Okay. I don't know what specifically you worked on in this, but this is cool. The grass is very straight. We won't focus on this for too long just because it's more of a group effort, but some things to watch out for are really straight edges, how stuff contacts the ground and becomes a little too clean. You can get away with that by just putting props around it, kind of like you had done here. I don't know if you were propping this, so. I don't know what we started in chat about toilet paper, but I feel bad now. So this scene's pretty. This is big. 9 students, 8 weeks. So, oh, that's cool. Yeah, got a poster for it as well. So I'm not gonna comment on this too much just because it's more of group work. Let's go and look at. So we got some props here. This is a year ago. Prop scene currently working on UE4 70 game assets. It's feels very stylized. Whoa, are these like these are containers for. These are supposed to be bigger, aren't they? Well, it feels like so you're starting like this, and we come from props where they look like this. So if you could get it to start like close up, this will feel much larger, right? It's just weird. It feels like shoe boxes. That textures.com graffiti. Yeah, these guys. It's good. It's good stuff, man. Yeah, so when we're looking at like how these are constructed, it's really interesting that you're putting all of the assets in a single texture, right? Because this is a really good example of when. So you shouldn't do that first of all, just so that I can drop some of the knowledge. You should separate these all out. That way, they are their own asset. I mean, I know this is a year ago. You probably know that already. But the reason behind it is like, so if we make this live here. Now, let's say this is because you have so many assets, you have to make the texture higher res, right? So let's say you make it a 2K. That way you can get all the details you're trying to get into all of these. And I bet this is a 2K, judging from the information I'm seeing on here. Dang, is that in there too? Yo, that's crazy. Okay. So the reason you don't want to do this is you'll end up with a higher res texture or higher res texture maps because you're like 3-4 textures for this, right? Or up to. And because of that, you'll end up with really high res maps. And then maybe if your propping a scene in a game and someone wants to use the cone only, they'll separate out the cone, or it'll be separated out already, and they'll place it somewhere else. And maybe it's just that cone, and now you've got a cone calling like really high res textures to render things that don't exist, just so that you can get a texture on the cone. So that's the main reason you're going to want to maintain separation of assets, and I would rather you are loading assets separately for that sake. Sir Oliver, Oliver's got knowledge bombs. What's up? Am I wrong? I always get scared. Maybe he's about to drop knowledge on toilet paper. No, just saying hi. Oh. Oliver is a very smart person, so I always get scared. He's, sir, you're wrong. The same goes for the containers. You're probably just going to want to, not in this field, you the PhD. No way, man. Come on. These right now are quite, this is pretty hardcore, and you can see the amount of UV space not being utilized because of these pieces being like a frame. And this is just going to fight your like resolution of your textures. Whereas like you can put all of this information in like in a 0 to 1, but then all of this color, all this stuff can just be a tileable, right? This can be a decal. This doesn't have to be in the texture. And same for this. All of the lighting information that you're putting into it. Is that, hang on. What's the, I always forget, there we go. It feels like, man, this must be super high res. That's crazy. Anyways, you want to be working with tileable albedos and tileable materials in general when possible, and then be watching out for trying to pack all of this information into a single sheet, because then you end up with really low res textures or really high res in order to maintain some type of resolution. But this is older stuff. So let's keep looking at these details. Oh, look at this flower cart. Oh man, what? Yeah, I want to see this live. Stylized prop for game I'm working on with some of my classmates. Dude, this is, oh, that's cool. It's very stylized, but I like it. It's got like line art on it as well. Oh no, I'm being limited. So this looks really cool. And the reason I'm going around is because these three that are hanging low are blocking me from looking at this. So I wanted to go around and use these as more of a backdrop. So I think naturally, if you were to take this rope and put it in the back, it would probably make more sense and kind of be used as like a back framing. Pretty cool style though. This line work here. Man, my brain, I almost had like a stroke or something. That was really weird. The line work here, I think you should be pushing that into the pottery as well as the wood material. Because right now the wood material is kind of clashing with this style, right? And if you were to draw that, oh, this is cool too. If you were to draw that into these materials, that'd be pretty awesome. The geometry, I do agree, is pretty stiff, and there's some weirdness going on here. Looks like maybe that face normal is flipped. I can't tell. Yeah, I think it's flipped. Let's see if I can see on the, yeah, I can't see. Okay. Anyways, that face is probably just missing, or it's flipped. And you, please don't have a stroke on us, dude. I will try my best. But poly count wise, these are really low. You could like double that easily and just get like nice roundness to them. Don't worry about, like, if it's stylized and you're going for a stylized look, still I would not worry about the poly count. You can go pretty nuts with it. You could double these as well. This is kind of hard to read. I think if it had like a different roughness to it, that could be pretty cool. Let's see if like, I mean, it does have different gloss values. That's interesting. The pieces of wood have different gloss values to them, which is nice for the the breakup, but you really want to watch out for like, yeah, see the reflectivity on the paint. Maybe if that was just a little bit more reflective, that would be good. They look floaty. Would more flowers help hide the base? I mean, I think that they're fine. You could put more flowers down there, but I think it's okay. It's just because you're probably supposed to be seeing it from this. That's my assumption, right? You're supposed to be looking at it from like here. And this just feels like it needs to be back in the back of the stall itself or the cart. It's weird that these don't feel textured, right? These don't feel like they have a material on them. So watch out for an unfinished look. That's like a color that's really dangerous to use because it can tend to look like it's not textured. But yeah, no, I really like the style of the flowers, and I think pushing that style further into everything else is going to be more beneficial. Let's see if we can't go back here. This, we're not going to debate the toilet paper situation, but this is a great way of displaying some nice subsurface or some transmission action. That's pretty good. I can see there's, what did you model this in? Maya. So you can see how there's some pinching going on here. You're going to want to try and straighten that out, and maybe in the next time you do something like this. I'm not sure how you do it in Maya, but in Blender you'd probably just have two tubes and then connect them, and then scroll to like make it round enough. You shouldn't have to get too much distortion. There shouldn't be any distortion basically, and it should just round evenly. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, that's cool. The edge here feels a little strange, but I think it's just on the back side here. What? Why can't I? How did I get a better view of the what? Didn't I have a better view of this just a second ago? Oh, there we go. I can pan. Oh, that's so weird. So it's really shiny. Just a FYI, it looks like duct tape from the side. Let's keep going through here. So I would actually remove this one because it just isn't really, it doesn't show anything well for you. Whereas like your other stuff is like, this just doesn't, it's not the same caliber as your other work. When we start looking at this decorative concrete wall, there, when you start looking at stuff like this and start trying to create materials that have this look, be really careful with how much noise is happening on the surface here. Because when you think about, there's these little teeth-like details that are popping up. And those, if you think about the surface, why would those be popping up, right? They should be going in. They should be more like pitted. So the surface is kind of going inward. What's up, Black Star? How you doing? So watching out for that type of detail that you're adding coming outward, it should definitely be going inward, because all that should be happening is the stone should be getting worn down. So everything that's happening to the surface to depict aging or damage should be going inward. What's up, Alex? How you doing? So keep a lookout for that. This ambient occlusion seems like it might be quite strong. I know that they have like a scale control in the ambient occlusion, right? And if the scale in centimeters is wrong, the AO will act as if the object is much smaller or much larger, depending on what you're doing in that node. Holy cow. Yeah. Pattern 3. And then roughness wise, this doesn't make sense at all. Just up front. the overall, like when you do roughness on a material like this, it's going to be pretty uniform. So overall, it's going to be, the roughness will be the breakup of like different types of stone, not the roughness varying because it's a backplate or an area is coming more forward, making it more rough. So watching out for those types of issues. And I think when you want to really show off a material, it's having roughness variation or contrast. And by having roughness variation or contrast, in order to do that, you have to like bring in other elements that have a different roughness value. Roughness is like, how was this cleaned? Oh man. For anyone asking about portfolio reviews in chat, just go here and there should be a thing to fill out. And there's a Discord here. There you go. It's cleaned really well. But with that said, I think bringing in another element like a metal piece that's maybe sitting here is what you could use your roughness for in order to get those separations, right? Maybe the elements, maybe there's like gems that are pushed into the surface. Yeah. So right now your roughness is not really showing what you expect of it. Also, your color feels very, very strange. I think if you want these areas to be darker, like I don't understand what this material is versus this material, right? If it's all cut from the same stone, it shouldn't really be darker unless it's painted, right? And even when it's painted stone that's quite aged. So that means the roughness of it being painted won't really change much of the information here. But if you want this type of breakup, I wouldn't put it in the color. I'd be putting it in the roughness. Let's see as we go further down the line how that keeps, like how your art changes and how you grow. So this is pretty cool. It's very muted, and the depth of it is really strong. So being careful with how much you're pushing the normal and the height to displace. That should be noted. I'm trying to, what is this? Is this the height map? I think it is, because all the little pitting that you have there is very black, right? And it's really strong in here. You know what I mean? You can see how the strength of the pitting is really, really intense. There's also a lot of aging and damage going on in here that feels really strange or alien. Think about your height map. Let's say, let me think here. How we describe this. I can copy this one and bring it into Photoshop. So if you think about your height map, so you've got, let's say this is the lowest area and this is the highest up here, right? So if you were to look at it from, let me just make another layer here real quick. Let's say this is the highest point, so that'd be your white value, and this is your lowest point, that's the black value. So if I lower the opacity of this and we think about this from a side view, this is the flat point here, and then your highest point is up here. So, and then it looks like it goes down again, actually. So we'll just depict that as well. It goes down again, but not all the way. It's still higher than where it was before. So it goes down all the way to there. So this is, let's say this is the height difference, right? This is black and this is white. With that known, think about that range from here to here as like Ben Wilson. I don't know if he's in chat anymore, but Ben Wilson describes this height as like, think about it in centimeters, right? So if you're doing like a cobblestone and like this is dirt and this is the highest point of the cobblestone. If you've got black values for these pitting details, that means you've got that pitting detail is dropping the height down like this, right? You got to watch out for that. So if you want pitting to be in the surface of that, it probably needs to be happening at like a much more mild range. You might not even hardly see it in the height map, but then when you displace, it'll become much more visible and it won't look so intense. Also, it won't grab the ambient occlusion so strongly, which I think this is height, this is roughness. You're not showing ambient occlusion in here. But this looks like ambient occlusion as well. Like there's AO in, no, what is that? This must be AO. So you're not showing your height map in here. I don't think anyways. I could be very wrong about this. But yeah, and see, then the pitting is more rough, which I think that can make sense. But I don't know what the material is. Is this like, it's a wall pattern. Is this supposed to be stone? Is this back panel? Are these supposed to be metal? Is this all carved? Is it wood? Those are the things you need to be answering if you want to be a texture artist. We need to understand what materials are what immediately. Like when you see it, you know. Like imagine if this back panel was more of like a copper, but then it had like a patina effect where it's kind of more of that greenish color. And then you have this bottom panel here. Maybe this is wood. So then you'd have the wood grain in there, right? And the direction of the wood grain would tell you how it was put together. These guys, maybe these were placed separately. So if the wood grain is a different direction on these, then your brain starts to understand how the surface of the materials are put together. What's the question? What would cause the 3 little dots on the bottom of the red tier thingy? The 3 little dots. You mean this stuff here? That's just the same. It's like this noise, but it's inverted. Bottom, middle. Yeah. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of information that's happening and it's like it's not really explained how or what, like what's the damage that you're trying to depict here? What's the material types? Is it painted wood? Is it stone? Is there any metal work in here? Those are the things you should be answering. That way we don't question what the surfaces are. Let's just keep going here. This is interesting. So this one's a rocky beach terrain. So it looks like you're pushing water up and down. See here, it looks pretty nice. It's interesting though, because you see this color, and I'm not sure, is this like maybe supposed to be murky? And then there's sand. Oh yeah, there's a lot of variable controls. So it's a lot of noises that I'm seeing that you're using that I'm not sure why you're using them the way you're using them. So knowing what type of rock this is and portraying those shapes and details in a way that depict the type of rock that you're going for. And then the sand, I mean, the water is so shallow that it shouldn't actually be diffused like this, right? You should still see the sand and it should just be more like this. This actually is probably the nicer part of the material, is showing that the sand has actually become saturated with water. So the value has gone down and the saturation has gone up. That's usually what happens when things become wet, if they're really porous, which this type of material is super porous. Where you're getting some weirdness here is when the rock starts to meet the sand, you get this interpolation of like that darkening around the rock is also bleeding into the sand, and I don't understand how, like, that shouldn't be happening. It should still be a pretty clear cut between the sand and the rock, right? So keep all of that in mind. This looks more like mud because of how like porous or like patchy it is, and like oil in water. Let's see. Keep going. This was the one that I looked at for putting on the thumbnail. So this one's also like you're going more for sci-fi hard surface, So I do like that you're pushing yourself in Substance Designer to make different types of shapes. You're going with organic things, and you're going for like things that are made by people, and then like sci-fi type stuff. So like the difference between these and this is a little bit more exploring as well. And then you have this guy and this are all very different. So that's really good. Where this one's breaking down again is there's not really, you have an emissive and you've got like edge highlighting happening. It's very stylized, I guess, is the look I'm going, or the look that I think you're going for. And I don't know. None of this looks like metal to me. And usually with sci-fi paneling, a lot of things are metal or they're painted, right? So watch out for that type of information. Knowing like, okay, these patterns, like just from a design standpoint, how these corners meet the other edge here is very, it's like a tangent. So they look very busy for no reason. And then understanding like, okay, is this metal? What's not metal? Are things painted? And then like, are they scratched? And then you see the metal under it. Those are the details that you really want to push. And with your emissives very binary. It's either there or it's not. The edges are a little soft, so that's nice. But like, if we paste this in here, and I look at we just grab this. Oh, hang on. My brain's doing a lot of flipping. It's weird. So I feel like what you would want to be seeing is more of the core highlighting. Because you need the light source, right? It can't just be an emissive hype brain. And it doesn't just get more saturated like what's kind of happening here. It needs to be almost white. I'm not really approaching this well. Essentially, you need to have a core to this where you can tell where the emissive is coming from. Like, give me. Because that's going to tell you where the light is happening, even if it's really diffused. Like if there's a surface on top of it that's diffusing the light to try and like soften the overall glow. That needs to be explained more. But I think you're just missing a lot of information. Like sci-fi panels essentially go crazy in the roughness and then the metal. And then where it's not metal, it's probably painted. And then usually there can be damage on the paint, and that will expose the metal under it. And that's really, I think, how you can get this surface to pop. Because right now it's very flat. It's basically that. I mean, I don't think there's any roughness in there at all. It's probably like 0.5 or less. Or more. Maybe 0.8 even. But yeah. Oh, see, that's. And when you do a render like this, I would just make the background darker. It's easier on the eyes. Now there's some roughness happening here. That's interesting. So this actually looks further along than what you showed up here. Yeah, I would look at I would look at some tutorials on like how other people are doing sci-fi elements. I mean, there's some really good stuff out there, even on YouTube for free. Let's see what we got here. So we're almost out of time. Oh, this one's cool. This one's just lacking the depth that you're expecting from a building, right? So like you expect these columns to be sticking out quite far. Maybe the arch is staying at the same depth as the pillars. So windows need to be going inward, right? Yeah, Foxtrot saying varying up the roughness is going to help a lot. For example, I think you're mentioning that with the other material, but with this one, it's the same story. It's like the glass, right? Should be quite reflective. It's quite shiny. And you've got some like really harsh edges on the height map where it goes from like a high value to really low. Muck, can you link that for me? Actually, because like, yeah, understanding what physically based rendering is and understanding materials and why they reflect the way they reflect, how, like, when you look at roughness, black would be diamond in reflectivity, and then white would be like ash, right? And so you don't want to, a lot of times we'll make glass really close to black, and then you'll add some details in that add oil or kind of dirty the glass up a bit. Thank you, Muck. I'll just note that in here. I don't want to add a property. And yeah, it's just understanding what the materials are and how they react to the lighting is going to be everything. Like, what's metal here? What is glass? See, glass is kind of being affected here, but it's dirty in weird ways. It's not dirty in a logical way. It feels like from here. I mean, maybe it is, and I'm just not seeing it from close enough up. Yeah, the brick is also extruded out quite far and is super, super clean. Your albedo looks better in here. There's some weirdness going on here, and the ranges are maybe a little too bright versus these areas. And then I think your saturation is fine. But yeah, when you're looking at this reference, man, there's a lot going on in that building. That's crazy. Dang, this is crazy too. Substance designer, you're so insane. But we're kind of out of time, but I wanted to say that definitely understanding what the materials are. Why is color called albedo? I think albedo is the scientific term for it. Because when we went PBR, we were all scientific now. I could be wrong, Oliver, but I think that's why. Yeah, so what I would say is you need to be understanding what types of materials you're trying to make and understanding why those look the way they look. Like, if it's stone, what makes stone look right? Why is the stone that you're making look wrong? What details are you adding to it that you're not seeing in references? So looking at references really closely, really understanding the PBR workflow and what those maps can do for you. Oliver just looked it up. Surface albedo is defined as the ratio of radiosity to irradiance flux per unit area received by the surface. Science. And I think you'll go a lot further once you start to understand how to separate out your materials properly and really pushing the surfaces to a point where you understand what is stone, what is metal, what is glass, and just getting the surfaces to look correct. And yeah, hopefully that's super helpful. I was very critical about everything in here. Your thumbnails aren't very unified right now. I think maybe doing like the Substance Designer logo here and then Substance Designer across the bottom, and then framing up all of your materials. Like, if you look at other material portfolios, they're just using spheres. And I think that's probably the easiest way to just commit to it, because then you don't have to worry about it. And if you really want to be a texture artist, I would just go nuts. Going forward, go for trying to create things like try and make a ball of ice cream. That's quite an interesting endeavor. Or like trying to make an eyeball with the parallax correctly working. I think that's how you can push yourself that much further. Daniel Theiger, dude, that guy is crazy good, and he's got some really good tutorials. Can you link me that real quick, Foxtrot? I'm like using you guys in chat now, but those tutorials are gold. Are you saying Josh Josh Lynch. Yeah, Josh Lynch is freaking. I was actually talking to him this morning. He's sending me pictures of his new dog. Uh, I will get those links and add them to your YouTube video, and they'll be in the description just so that you have those resources for you. And yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Cheers, man.